The people have spoken, and apparently we want Technoblade to be our resistance leader in the fight against Dante. The perks of him and his 6 generals are extremely powerful. In this video, I'm going to be going over each of the generals and their perks, along with Technoblade's perks, and I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, what the best things to do during his reign will be. Before we get too far into the video, I want to thank you all for your continued support on the channel. I didn't really think that I would be getting 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, let alone by the end of this month, so I really do thank you all for your support. Also, I know it's a super cheesy thing to say as a YouTuber, but a very small portion of you are actually subscribed, and it really would help me out if you did subscribe. To start us off, I'm going to be looking at each of the generals and what they do, and finally we will look at Technoblade. First is Swavey, and his perk is to introduce rats. We really don't know what this means, and it'll probably introduce a pet or something is my guess, but I really have no clue. Heimdall's perk is pretty simple, and it will just double the effectiveness of all fairy souls, and of course, reference to his fairy soul guide, but it is quite a powerful buff, especially because fairy souls give you a lot of health and strength. 30 Virus's perks, we really don't know what they do, but they introduce a new craft called the Spiked Atrocity. In my opinion, this might be a bait, but it also might not be because 30 Virus does not like fishing at all. On the other side, Refraction gives a ridiculous amount of magic find and dungeons loot. FurryEboy gives probably the most powerful perk, which is a 25% skill XP buff if you have a party member on your island. And then of course, they really had to do my homie to end like this, and they gave him -1 intel. Please free the homie. He did nothing wrong. Lastly, we have Technoblade the man himself. Technoblade's perks are ridiculously OP, and we'll go over them one by one. The first is Blood God's Blessing, and this gives you a 50% skill XP buff. This is equivalent to what we got during Derpy, and you don't have all of the negative debuffs, and you have the perks from other mayors. The next is Unlimited Speed, and that will give you ludicrous amounts of speed if you can max it out. Of course, this will be really good in dungeons in my opinion, and will also be really powerful with a Warden helmet. The next is the Potato Crown's Radiance, and it buffs farming minions by 100%, and that is why melons have spiked in price by I think around double. Melon minions are really good because of this perk, and so a lot of people are trying to buy them. The next is Anarchy, and that removes bazaar and auction house taxes, and that will be really good for flippers, but not really insane for anybody else. And the last is the Shrine of the Blood God, which summons the Ancient Pig, and we just have absolutely no idea what this does. Now that we've gone over what each of the perks does, I can now recommend what I think you should do during his campaign. Of course, during his campaign, basically everything in the game will be good to grind, but there are 5 things in particular that will just be really good to do during this time period. The first is going to be farming. Of course, because of the basically 75% skill XP buff, farming and basically all skills will be really good. However, farming is especially good because of the fact that he also buffs melon minions, and melon minions are also buffed when you're on your island with a rabbit pet. When you're farming, most of the time you have a rabbit pet and you're on your island, so all of these will combine together to just be ludicrously good for farming XP while Technoblade is mayor. These next 2 aren't really insanely good, but they are still very good, and let me explain why. They are foraging and enchanting/alchemy. Of course, all skills are good to grind while Technoblade is mayor, but if you look at something like fishing or mining, these already have mayors that are specifically allotted to them. Yes, I know you could say Barry gives a buff to enchanting and alchemy XP, but when is Barry ever getting elected? The answer is never. It's just not happening. In theory, combat would also be good, however, I separated that out because you're not just going to be doing regular combat during this, you are going to be doing something very special, which is Slayers. Of course, whenever they buff combat XP, Slayers will inherently become buffed just because you can do them faster. However, now it is even especially ridiculous, and I can explain why. As you can see, a tier 4 Tarantula boss requires a decent amount of combat XP to start. 2,000 combat XP to be exact. Normally, trading is very good, and most endgame players who do Slayers trade bosses. However, during Technoblade it will especially be good. This is because if you have the 50% buff that Technoblade gives you, plus the 25% buff that FurryEboy gives you, plus the 15% buff from a Grandma Wolf pet, you can actually infinite chain Slayers. Each tier 4 Tarantula Broodfather, when you kill it, will give you over 2000 combat XP, so if you can keep up a chain, you can do Slayers infinitely. This also in fact applies to tier 5 Revs, and this time it doesn't even need you to keep up a kill combo. So if you have the money to spend, Revs will just absolutely shred through your purse. In my opinion, this is probably going to be one of the most fun things to do during Technoblade if you can one-tap tier 5s. The last really good thing to do during Technoblade will be flipping. Personally, I don't flip that much. I should probably learn how, but it really isn't really entertaining to me. If you are good at flipping, this will be the time to do it though. I know this video is super short, and I appreciate you for sticking around. I do have some longer videos planned in the future, so I hope to see you around for them. I'll see you guys later, and adios.